Ozzy Osbourne was never a Satanist. Jack Osbourne finally clears the air. For more than 50 years, the name Ozzy Osbourne has been surrounded by one of the most persistent myths in rock history. The man known as the Prince of Darkness built a reputation filled with shocking headlines, outrageous stage antics, and imagery that terrified parents across America. When people saw the bats, the crosses, the eerie lyrics, and the haunting performances, many jumped to a simple conclusion: Ozzy Osbourne must be a Satanist. But according to Ozzy's son Jack Osbourne, that idea couldn't be further from the truth. In a recent conversation, Jack opened up about the man behind the legend. And what he revealed challenges one of the most widely believed assumptions in rock culture. The shocking truth is that the dark persona the world saw on stage was never the real Ozzy at all. The legend of the Prince of Darkness. When Black Sabbath first exploded onto the music scene in the late 1960s and early 1970s, they sounded unlike anything the world had ever heard. Rock music before that time had largely been upbeat, rebellious, and energetic. But Black Sabbath brought something darker. Their music carried a sense of dread, mystery, and intensity. The heavy guitar riffs created by Tony Iommi felt ominous and powerful. The lyrics, written largely by bassist Geezer Butler, explored themes of fear, war, paranoia, and the supernatural. Then there was Ozzy. His voice sounded eerie and hypnotic. His stage presence felt unpredictable, and his wild personality made headlines almost immediately. Before long, the press began labeling him with a nickname that would follow him for the rest of his life: the Prince of Darkness. At first, the title seemed perfect for the band's mysterious image. But over time, that nickname began creating a completely different story. One that Ozzy himself never intended. How the Satanism rumor took over. During the 1970s and especially the 1980s, a wave of fear about heavy metal music began spreading across parts of America and Europe. Religious groups started accusing certain rock artists of promoting dark spiritual messages. And because Black Sabbath had the darkest sound in rock music at the time, they became the biggest target. Concert protests became common. Critics claimed the band was promoting the occult. Parents worried that their children were being influenced by evil forces simply by listening to the music. Ozzy became the face of that entire controversy. The media took small moments and exaggerated them into something far bigger. One lyric would be taken out of context. One performance photo would become a headline. Before long, the myth grew larger than the man himself. Jack Osbourne finally speaks. Decades later, Ozzy's son Jack Osbourne decided it was time to explain the truth. During a podcast appearance with comedian Jamie Kennedy, Jack talked about the strange experience of growing up inside one of the most misunderstood families in rock history. According to Jack, nothing about their home life resembled the dark image the public imagined. He explained that Ozzy was never involved in Satanism. In fact, the reality was almost the complete opposite. Jack revealed that his father believed in Christ. Ozzy owned a Bible. And perhaps most surprising of all, he wore a cross around his neck every single day of his life. To the outside world, Ozzy looked like the embodiment of darkness. But inside the Osbourne household, he was simply a father raising his children. The real story behind Black Sabbath's image. One of the most misunderstood parts of the band's early history involved Geezer Butler. In the early days of Black Sabbath, Butler had briefly become interested in reading about occult philosophy and supernatural ideas. But that curiosity ended quickly after he reportedly experienced something frightening in his home involving a mysterious shadow-like figure. The experience terrified him. Instead of becoming fascinated with the occult, Butler rejected it completely. Ironically, that fear became inspiration for some of the band's earliest lyrics. The songs were meant as warnings about darkness and evil, not endorsements of it. But once the band's reputation began growing, the subtle meaning behind those lyrics was often ignored. The famous crosses everyone misunderstood. Another detail that helped fuel the rumors was the large metal crosses worn by the members of Black Sabbath. Fans saw the crosses and assumed they were symbols of something sinister. But the truth was surprisingly simple. Ozzy's father worked at a factory that produced car parts. Using leftover pieces of metal, he crafted the crosses for the band members as protective charms. They weren't mystical artifacts. They weren't occult symbols. They were simply handmade gifts from a father who wanted to protect his son. Yet in the world of rock mythology, facts rarely travel as fast as rumors. Ozzy tried to correct the story. Throughout his career, Ozzy occasionally attempted to explain the misunderstanding. In a 1986 interview, he openly addressed the accusations that he worshipped the devil. Ozzy explained that he had actually grown up attending Sunday school as a child and considered himself a Christian, even if he wasn't particularly religious in a formal sense. He insisted that many of his darker songs were simply storytelling, just like horror movies or gothic novels. But by that point, the image of Ozzy as a dark and mysterious figure had already taken hold. And once the media builds a myth, it's incredibly difficult to undo it. The cost of being misunderstood. According to Jack Osbourne, the constant accusations eventually became frustrating for his father. Ozzy often joked about the rumors, sometimes even leaning into them because fans enjoyed the outrageous persona. But privately, he was annoyed that people assumed they understood him without ever listening to what he was actually saying. Jack explained that his father frequently complained that the media would pull a single lyric out of context and turn it into a sensational headline. The reality of who Ozzy was as a person rarely made those headlines. The man behind the myth. The truth about Ozzy Osbourne is far more complex and far more human than the legend suggests. Yes, he created one of the most dramatic stage personas in music history. Yes, he embraced the theatrical darkness that fans loved. And yes, his wild rock and roll lifestyle became the subject of endless stories. But behind the Prince of Darkness image was a man who cared deeply about his family. A man who believed in God. A man who wore a cross every single day. A legacy built on music, not myth. More than 5 decades after he first stepped onto the stage with Black Sabbath, Ozzy Osbourne remains one of the most influential figures in rock history. His music helped shape the sound of heavy metal. His voice became one of the most recognizable in the world. And his personality turned him into a cultural icon. But thanks to Jack Osbourne's recent revelations, fans are finally being reminded of something important. The Prince of Darkness was never truly dark. He was simply a performer playing a role. And behind that role was a man who wanted to make people laugh, sing, and experience the power of music. Sometimes the truth behind a legend is far more fascinating than the myth itself. The moment that cemented the myth. For many people, one moment more than any other sealed Ozzy Osbourne into the public imagination as rock's ultimate villain. It happened in 1982 during a concert in Des Moines, Iowa. A fan threw something onto the stage. At first, Ozzy thought it was a rubber toy bat, something fans often tossed at performers during shows. Without thinking much about it, he picked it up and bit into it. But almost immediately, Ozzy realized something was wrong. The bat was real. He quickly spat it out, horrified by what had just happened. But the damage was done. The story spread like wildfire across newspapers and television. Suddenly, the image of Ozzy biting the head off a bat became one of the most famous moments in rock history. For critics and concerned parents, this was all the proof they believed they needed. The Prince of Darkness must truly be something evil. But in reality, the moment was simply a bizarre accident that Ozzy himself later described as one of the most shocking experiences of his life. He even had to rush to the hospital afterward to receive rabies shots. Still, the story became permanent rock legend, and it only strengthened the myth surrounding him. Heavy metal's cultural scapegoat. Throughout the 1980s, heavy metal music became a target for controversy across the United States. Politicians, activists, and religious groups began claiming that certain songs contained hidden satanic messages. Some even argued that playing records backward revealed secret demonic phrases. Bands like Black Sabbath, Judas Priest, and Iron Maiden were frequently criticized by these groups. But because Ozzy had already become the face of dark imagery in rock music, he received the most intense attention. Talk shows debated whether his music was dangerous. Church groups organized protests outside concert venues. Some communities even attempted to ban his performances entirely. And yet, the irony was that many of Ozzy's songs were actually warning listeners about darkness rather than encouraging it. The reality inside the Osbourne family. While the world imagined Ozzy as a mysterious and frightening figure, the reality at home was far different. According to Jack Osbourne, growing up in the Osbourne household felt surprisingly normal. Ozzy loved watching television with his family. He enjoyed joking around with his kids. And despite the chaos of touring, he tried to be present whenever he could. Jack often describes his father as someone who loved making people laugh. The dark persona fans saw on stage disappeared completely when Ozzy walked through the front door. Instead of the Prince of Darkness, he became simply Dad. And the cross he wore around his neck was a quiet reminder of the beliefs that remained personal to him throughout his life. The media image versus the real person. Part of the reason the myth persisted for so long was because the darker version of Ozzy simply made for better headlines. Journalists knew that stories about a supposed satanic rock star would attract attention. The more outrageous the claims became, the more people talked about them. And Ozzy himself sometimes played along with the image. Not because it reflected who he truly was, but because rock and roll has always thrived on theatrical shock. He once joked that being labeled a devil worshipper might actually be useful because it kept him from catching the flu. Humor became his way of dealing with the strange reputation that followed him everywhere. The birth of heavy metal. Looking back today, it's clear that Black Sabbath didn't just create a band, they created an entirely new genre of music. The heavy sound they pioneered eventually became known as heavy metal. That genre would go on to influence thousands of bands and millions of fans across the world. Artists ranging from Metallica to Pantera have openly credited Black Sabbath as the foundation of modern metal. And through it all, Ozzy remained one of the genre's most recognizable voices. The so-called Prince of Darkness became a symbol of rebellion, individuality, and musical freedom. But behind that symbol was simply a musician who loved performing. Jack's final message about his father. For Jack Osbourne, correcting the myth about his father isn't about changing Ozzy's legacy. It's about completing the story. Fans already know the outrageous stage moments, the wild tours, and the larger-than-life rock star persona. But Jack wants people to also remember the quieter side of the man behind the legend. The father who laughed with his children. The man who believed in God. The performer who wore a cross every day and simply wanted to entertain the world. A rock legend finally understood. More than 50 years after his rise to fame, Ozzy Osbourne remains one of the most iconic figures in music history. He helped invent heavy metal. He survived decades of controversy. And he built a career that continues to inspire generations of musicians. But thanks to Jack Osbourne's honest reflections, fans are now seeing a more complete picture of the man behind the myth. The Prince of Darkness wasn't truly dark at all. He was simply one of rock and roll's most misunderstood legends. And before we come to the end of this video, I just want to take a moment to say a very big thank you to all of you for watching. Your time truly means a lot. In a world where there are thousands of videos you could be watching right now, the fact that you chose to spend a few minutes here with me on Hajararama TV is something I truly appreciate. This channel continues to grow because of viewers like you. Every view, every comment, and every bit of support helps this community become stronger. And that's what makes creating these videos so rewarding. If you enjoyed this video, please take a quick moment to like the video, leave a comment below, and share it with your friends or anyone who might enjoy this content. Your interaction really helps the channel reach more people who love stories, entertainment, and updates just like you do. And of course, if you haven't already, make sure you subscribe to my channel, Hajararama TV, and turn on the notification bell so you'll always be among the first to know when a new video is uploaded. There are many more exciting videos coming your way very soon, and I would love for you to be part of this journey as the channel continues to grow. I also enjoy hearing your thoughts, so feel free to drop your opinions, ideas, or suggestions in the comments section. Your voice matters here, and your feedback helps make Hajararama TV even better. Once again, thank you so much for watching and for being part of this amazing community. Until next time, stay safe, stay informed, stay entertained, and keep watching Hajararama TV.